before we get into today's episode, I want to thank everyone for watching. This is Generally Nerdy. I am Dustin, and please remember to like, subscribe, share, retweet, all of that fun stuff that we do with the social medias. Spoiler alert, I'm going to spoil the entire series, the first season anyway, of Westworld. So if you have not watched it, please do so, and then come back and talk with me, because it's kind of awesome. So, we're just going to jump into this real quick, because I've got a short amount of time. Episode number 1, titled The Original. I'll read the synopses of each episode, and then go over it. Episode number 1, Teddy and Dolores, two romantically linked robotic hosts. If you didn't know Teddy was a robot, watch about 10 minutes longer. Of the theme park Westworld are attacked by the Man in Black, a mysterious human guest who is searching for a maze. When the hosts begin behaving strangely, Bernard traces the problem to errors in Dr. Ford's Reverie Code. Cullen orders Hector and Armistice's attack on the town brought forward to cover for the removal of all the affected hosts. Dolores' father, Peter, finds a photograph that a newcomer left behind and malfunctions. When Dr. Ford interrogates him, Peter quotes Shakespeare and vows revenge upon his creator. Peter is retired from service. Dolores is interrogated and found to be functioning normally. She is wiped and relives her day with a new father, but unknown to management, breaks her programming to casually kill a fly. The picture that her original father host gets fixated on, we find out in like episode 7 or 8, I believe, is actually the Man in Black's wife. Only it's from years and years ago, and it was such a really cool reveal when you get to that episode when William and his partner, whose name escapes me because he's fairly irrelevant, just really badass. Episode 2, Chestnut. Logan and William, Logan is William's partner, come to Westworld for a good time, but the latter is reluctant to indulge. Though Bernard secretly questions Dolores to make sure nobody has tampered with her, Dolores' contact with procuring Madam Host, Maeve, results in her malfunction as well. We've come to find out that the interactions between Bernard and Dolores are not actually Bernard and Dolores. It is Arnold and Dolores. And by the way, to make up for the last video, Arnold. Okay, so Maeve is taken in for maintenance, but unexpectedly awakens and witnesses damaged hosts, including Teddy, being hosed down. The Man in Black abducts outlaw Lawrence from his own hanging, demanding that he tells him the location of the maze. Lawrence's daughter gives him his next clue. Ford vetoes Sizemore's new narrative, calling it cheap titillation that underestimates the guests. They will use Ford's narrative instead. Still don't know what Ford's new narrative was. We get a little bit of a glimpse at the end of episode 10. And we get a quasi-explanation of what to expect, but that's one of the many, many questions that we are looking for answers to in Season 2, which is greenlit. I covered this in the previous video. They totally, like 2 episodes in, got greenlit for Season 2, but when Jonathan Nolan and his wife Lisa May approached HBO, they had a 5-season outline that I don't know how they're going to do 5 seasons after the way this ended. So let us continue. The Stray, episode 3. William drags Logan off on a bounty hunt. Dolores asks Teddy to teach her to shoot, but her programming prevents her from firing a gun. Ford changes Teddy's backstory for his new narrative, in which he is pitted against rogue outlaw Wyatt. Ford also tells Bernard about his old partner Arnold, who died in Westworld after trying to make the hosts conscious. Bernard is worried about the effect that their conversations have on Dolores, but she promises to keep quiet and follow her loop. Elsie and Stubbs are sent to capture a stray host. They find him trapped in a ravine, and then Stubbs tries to retrieve his head. He wakes up and attacks them before smashing his own head in with a rock. Dolores is attacked by bandits at the homestead, one of whom drags her into the barn to rape her. She steals his gun but is unable to shoot him until she sees him as the Man in Black. Dolores escapes, stumbles into William and Logan's campsite, and collapses in William's arms. Save me, William! Again, tricky editing, because we know that for her to have envisioned him as the Man in Black, all of the fan theories were true, except for Ford being a host. Ford definitely was not a host. And my stupid little fan theories, boy was I wrong. But yeah, so William is the Man in Black. William is the younger version of the Man in Black. So in order for her to have seen him as the Man in Black, we know that was tricky editing, because the bandits that were taking her into the barn, whom she eventually shot, had to have been later in order for her to be afraid of the Man in Black. So it's probably because her loop is either she gets saved or raped, that when she stumbled upon William and Logan, it was a much earlier version of that story, and she just happened to get away once before, which kind of reinforces the whole, all of this shit has happened before, that Bernard gave us at the end of episode 10. Episode 4, Dissonance Theory. Logan wants to finish the bounty hunt, and he mocks William for bringing Dolores along. Meanwhile, the Man in Black is hunting snakes and finds Armistice with her snake tattoo. He breaks Hector out of prison for her, and she tells him that the tattoo represents all the men she's killed in revenge for the massacre of her village, and that the last piece will be for Wyatt. The Man in Black sets off after Wyatt, rescuing a tortured Teddy. That's when he feeds Lawrence's blood to Teddy to keep him alive. Teresa takes over the investigation into the stray, not trusting Elsie and Bernard. She meets Ford about his new narrative, but he flaunts his power over Westworld and warns her not to interfere. Maeve is having visions of wiped memories, and during Hector and Armistice's attack on the town, she finds a bullet in her unscarred belly with Hector's assistance, proving that her visions are real. They kiss passionately as the sheriff bursts open and fires on them. The episode, super straightforward, not a whole lot of deeper, again, some creative editing, because they make it look like William and the Man in Black might be existing in the same universe, or might be existing in the same time. They are the same person, so of course they exist in the same universe. They are the same person, but we now know Man in Black is 35 years older than William, because they're the same person. So anytime it's William, it's much earlier. Episode 5, Contrapaso. Contrapaso. Don't know what that means. My Spanish does not fall into that territory. Elsie discovers that the stray has been transmitting information outside of the park to an unknown party. On his journey to find Wyatt, the Man in Black kills Lawrence. He kills Lawrence in order to save Teddy. He is then confronted by Dr. Ford, who assures him that he will not stop his efforts to find the maze. At this point, if you've never seen the show, there's a little bit of confusion here. You're thinking that they know each other because the Man in Black comes all the time, because he said he's been there a lot. You don't know that the Man in Black actually owns a majority share of Westworld, so he is, in essence, Ford's boss. Kind of. He's the majority shareholder. And it's fantastic. There's another foreshadowing element in this episode when Ford and Man in Black are sitting in the tavern. Ford grabs Man in Black's knife, kind of takes a look at it like he's seen it before, which would kind of make sense because, I mean, as far as we know at this point, he got it from the props department before he entered the park, and we know that is not entirely the case at this point, which is very, very smart writing. At this point, I'm still watching, going, the maze has to be an actual place, and Arnold has to be somewhere inside the actual maze. I was so wrong. I was so wrong. Whoever gave me a thumbs down on my last video, you're a jerk, but I understand. Dolores, William, and Logan travel to the town of Pariah, where they meet criminal gang leader El Lazo, aka Lawrence, who died in the previous episode, which was only kind of the same day, maybe a couple days earlier. But from the looks of it, it takes weeks to recycle the hosts back into the park, so that was also a tell for their future plans, because Lawrence shows up immediately across the park. A little weird. El Lazo, aka Lawrence, who tasks them with stealing a wagon of high explosives from the army, a mission they complete successfully. Dolores realizes El Lazo intends to keep the explosives for himself rather than selling them. The ex-Confederates realize this and apprehend Logan while William and Dolores flee. Maeve awakens in the control center and tells a technician that she wants to talk. Maeve is kind of a badass, although it's kind of her programming to do this, so whatevs. Episode 6, The Adversary. The Man in Black and Teddy continue their journey to find Wyatt. The Union Army outpost, the soldiers recognize Teddy as an accomplice. Pardon me. Recognize Teddy as an accomplice in Wyatt's massacre of his unit. Teddy escapes by killing all of the Union soldiers. Lee, distraught over Ford rejecting his narrative, drunkenly disrupts park operations by urinating on the control room, which is really funny. I don't know how he still has a job, because it seems like the company that owns them is kind of uptight, but who knows. He is interrupted by Teresa, who introduces him to Charlotte Hale, a board representative sent to observe park operations. Teresa breaks off her relationship with Bernard. Bernard finds out that Ford has secretly been keeping a family of hosts. Elsie continues to investigate the glitches and warns Bernard that Teresa has been smuggling data out of Westworld, and that the first generation hosts have been reprogrammed by someone calling themselves Arnold. This is the biggest hole, I think, in the entire series. The whole Arnold is Bernard thing. Because it's 30 years. It's hard to believe that Ford, A, is the only one who's been there since the beginning, or the only one who knows what Bernard looks like at all, and B, because Bernard helped create the park, if not the company that Ford was running to begin with, which then was bought out. But there's got to be a picture of Arnold somewhere. And so the fact that Bernard is exactly like Arnold is a giveaway. Is a dead fucking giveaway. Like, that is a weak point in this. I mean, Jonathan Nolan before has had a couple of weak points in that in Interstellar, there, one very key moment didn't have to happen and probably wouldn't have happened, but had it not happened, then the rest of the movie couldn't happen. That key point being when they go down to the planet that's right next to the black hole. The rest of the movie kind of hinges on that moment, and they had the math, they knew what the layout of the planet was, and so therefore they shouldn't have gone where they did. Anyway, different video. Someone calling themselves Arnold. However, she is abducted by an unknown assailant. A child host kills his dog, telling Ford that Arnold told him to. Maeve threatens and bends Felix and Sylvester to her will and convinces them to change her programming. The duo set her awareness rating to its maximum limit, making Maeve that much more smart. However, we know that part of her programming, which is directly tied into the maze, which is not a physical place, sadly for me, because that was my theory, that's part of her maze that keeps her from going crazy. Episode 7, when everything gets put on its head. Trompe l'oeil. It is revealed that Teresa and Charlotte are both secretly stealing Dr. Ford and Bernard's research for the board so that they can oust Dr. Ford from the park without fear of him destroying his work in retribution. They engineer an event to demonstrate that Dr. Ford's updates make the hosts violent and uncontrollable in their narratives. Bernard is blamed for the updates of untested faulty code and is fired as a result. William and Dolores grow closer. He realizes that the park is not meant to cater to a person's base desires, but to reveal their true character. A little convoluted. The train is then attacked by Confederados, forcing William, Dolores, and Lawrence to flee. They are saved when the Confederados are ambushed by the Ghost Nation. They reach a canyon and part ways with Lawrence. Meanwhile, super-intelligent Maeve finds Clementine retired by the staff. Maeve decides to use the two technicians to escape the park. Bernard takes Teresa to Sector 17. Inside a hidden lab, she finds design plans that reveal Bernard is a host. So, Sector 17 was not active. Sector 17 is where Ford's host family lived, and also where Ford showed Bernard the picture of he and Arnold, though it was not told to us it was Ford, Arnold, and Ford's father. So all Bernard saw, because he couldn't see something that would cause a logic loop, a fault in his logic, he didn't see Arnold, him, in the picture. He only saw Ford and Ford's father. So when he saw Ford's mechanical father, he thought that was Arnold, and again, we have another tell. This scene, though, was kind of... If I was fighting the broadcast, it was being absolutely shown the entire time that Bernard is a host, Bernard is a host, Bernard is a host, and he's probably Arnold. I didn't want to believe it, because I wanted there to be something a little bit more depth-worthy there. I wanted there to be a little more mystique to Arnold than him being Bernard. I feel like that was... because they were telegraphing that was not going to be the way they go. It was the way they went. And in the scene where we find that out, Teresa points to a door and says, well, what's behind that door? And Bernard says, what door? Even though he's standing right next to it. And there we go. Oh, he doesn't see it. He can't see it. He's programmed not to. Hence the name trompe-l'oeil. Dr. Ford appears, reiterates to Teresa that he has complete control over the park, regardless of what the board thinks, and instructs Bernard to murder Teresa. Bum, bum, bum. Episode 8, Trace Decay. Almost to the end of this. Dr. Ford has Bernard stage Teresa's death to look like an accident. With Teresa dead, Charlotte recruits Lee to help her smuggle data out of Westworld. Maeve convinces Felix to give her the ability to control other hosts, and slits Sylvester's throat as punishment for trying to kill her before having Felix save him. Maeve then suffers more visions of her past life with her daughter and reflexively kills another host, prompting the park staff to retrieve her for a diagnostic. William and Dolores finally reach their destination, where Dolores has more disturbing visions and realizes that Arnold wants her to remember something before they are captured by a band of Confederados led by Logan. Teddy receives a flashback from the Man in Black attacking Dolores and interrogates him. The Man in Black explains he came to Westworld to find purpose before he and Teddy are captured by Wyatt's cultists. The whole Wyatt thing, I think, made it a little more convoluted, though it could play into season 2. Who knows? Again, more questions for season 2. Episode 9, The Well-Tempered Clavier. Maeve reveals to Bernard that he is a host and convinces him to let her back into the park, where he meets Hector and convinces him to help. Where she meets Hector, She meets Hector and convinces him to help her escape the park. Bernard confronts Ford and forces him to restore all of his memories, and discovers he is based on Arnold. And also, this isn't the first time he's woken up. Ford tells him that. So, take with that what you will. Logan cuts open Dolores' belly to show William she is not real, and she cuts Logan in the face in response. She manages to escape him and run away, finding that the cut Logan made is suddenly gone. because she's hallucinating, because she's going crazy, which is the purpose of the maze, is to keep them from going crazy. And that's what Arnold wanted her to remember, so that, because she's one of the oldest hosts. She, unlike what Kevin Smith said recently on the Joe Rogan podcast, not all of the hosts look like she does on the inside. We see at the beginning of this episode what the original hosts look like on the inside. There's a lot of metal and different kinds of things, and no real insides. Though they frequently make reference to the fact that the new versions of the hosts are basically human. It's just everything's synthetic. So synthetic bones, synthetic guts, all of that is still there, and it's still not real, but it looks real. So also Maeve would not be real on the inside, because she is also one of the older hosts, which is also another hole that Jonathan Nolan left in there for whatever reason, whether or not he caught it or just decided it wasn't gonna detract from the story, who knows. The cut Logan made is suddenly gone. Logan makes amends with William, but then awakes to find that William slaughtered all of the Confederados. William threatens Logan into helping him find Dolores. Teddy receives a flashback of himself killing Angela before Angela kills him. Charlotte meets the Man in Black and tries to gain his assistance in removing Ford. Ashley investigates suspicious activity in the park and is ambushed by the Ghost Nation warriors. Dolores returns to the abandoned town and has a vision where she realizes she killed Arnold. She then encounters the Man in Black. Bernard attempts to rebel against Ford, but Ford uses a backdoor in Bernard's code to force him to commit suicide. A lot of stuff just gets brushed over in the synopses. Watch the show, obviously, and you'll get all the fine details. Charlotte meets the Man in Black. That was really interesting, because that was the giveaway that was the first dead giveaway that the Man in Black is William, because William and Logan are talking about buying the company, buying Delos, and then Charlotte is a board member of Delos coming to the Man in Black, talking about owning the company, and so that was a giveaway. The crazy thing was Dolores returns to the abandoned town and has a vision where she realizes she killed Arnold. She then encounters the Man in Black. She calls him William before he steps out of the shadows, and we see it as Ed Ford, who plays the Man in Black very, very well. Ed Harris. I'm sorry, Ed Harris. Me and names, not good friends. This is probably my favorite episode. If this had been the season ender, I feel like season 2 would have me a little bit more excited. I was kind of let down by episode 10, which we will now cover. Episode 10, The Bicameral Mind. The Man in Black presses Dolores about Wyatt's whereabouts and the center of the maze, and reveals he's actually an aged William, through a really convoluted story where he's referring to himself in the third person. Yeah, whatever. Dolores then remembers Arnold's order to kill him and destroy the park, and that she is actually Wyatt. She attempts fighting back. Teddy rescues her, and they flee to a distant beach. Teddy shoots the Man in Black, which they're not supposed to be able to do, so that was a little weird. Dolores dies in Teddy's arms, though that is revealed to be part of Ford's narrative. During her escape from Westworld, Maeve, aided by Hector and Armistice, finds Bernard's corpse, and Felix repairs him. And Felix goes, "Wait, what?" And then he starts looking at himself. "Don't worry," she says, "you're not one of us." It was kind of funny. Bernard warns Maeve that her desire to escape was programmed into her, and he shows her this. It was such a giveaway moment, such a letdown moment, I feel like, because the possibility of sentience in these hosts is kind of what was the driving factor of the season. And if we know that they're not actually becoming sentient, then why have we watched at this point 10 hours? Because you're looking at another half an hour worth of show by the time this is revealed. So why have we watched 10 hours of this show on that premise if that premise is not real. Kind of annoying. Desire to escape was programmed into her. Although Maeve, now alone, initially continues her escape, she has second thoughts and exits the imminently departing train to find her daughter. Because she wants those memories deleted, but they never do, so that's going to be her story in Season 2. Back at Westworld, Ford tells Dolores and Bernard that he regretted his role in Arnold's death, came to desire to free the hosts as well, and has spent the last 35 years preparing them to fight back. So, again, it's the big question for this series is, at what point is intelligence relevant? Because all of the hosts have artificial intelligence, but when does artificial intelligence become actual intelligence? And that is the biggest draw of this show. That is the thing that William fights with, because at first he knows, that they're machines. Ford is the same way. He gives up the ghost. he buys into their sentience at the end, which, if they would have kept Ford alive, I feel like he would have been a better motivating factor for Season 2 than some unknown that we're going to get in Season 2. Because he was the only one, aside from all the peons, and the board members and stuff, that wholeheartedly knew, at least we were led to believe, wholeheartedly knew that they were just robots and that they couldn't become sentient. So the struggle between his absolute decree that they're just robots and him being their god effectively means that when he gave in, then all motivating factors kind of went out the window, which again was kind of a letdown for Season 1. He then gives a speech in front of Charlotte, the Man in Black, and other guests, criticizing their handling of the park. Dolores then shoots and kills Ford while an army of reactivated hosts emerge from a nearby forest. And that is the end of the synopses. That leaves us questions. What is going to happen in Season 2? Where's Bernard gonna go with the knowledge that he is Arnold? If he's been awakened a number of times before, then how do they stop the cycle? Also, in the next season, we're very likely going to get some more of the other worlds. If you've seen the movie, or if you're familiar at all with the storyline from the movie, Westworld is one of 3 worlds. It appears they're going either with a different 2 worlds as the other options, or there's more than 3, because in the movie, the 3 worlds are Westworld, Roman World, and Medieval World. And we see in episode 10 a samurai world or something, an SW with an Asian kind of look to the font. So, how are they going to drive the narrative if there's other worlds? Are hosts from the other worlds also becoming sentient? Because again, I don't believe they're actually becoming sentient. They're just programmed to do different things now. Ford has built something into their programming so that they can go against what the board wants. They can go against what their original programming was, but it's still programming. So is that, if you're programmed to do, if they are programmed to do something, does that not cross the, or I don't believe that crosses the line from artificial intelligence to actual intelligence. Only time will tell. Jonathan Nolan and his wife Lisa May are the only ones who have actual answers for that. I really hope that the next season does not come to such a tidy little end, because I want them to get all 5 seasons that they originally approached HBO with. I want them to tell a broader story than they can in just a single 10-hour season. And with that, I want to thank you for watching. I am Generally Nerdy, and this is my channel. And if it's generally nerdy, it's probably here.